So this is part two of a simple framework for healthy eating. And in part one, we talked about adding more healthy fats to your diet. And we talked about adding a wider variety of vegetables so you get more fiber and more phytonutrients in your diet. In part two, we're going to talk about eating more real food. What is real food? Things that don't have ingredients, they are ingredients. These are things you would have found in your great-grandmother's kitchen, and you'll find them now in the produce section, the butcher counter, the fish counter, the frozen vegetable section, and of course where they sell the chickpeas, beans, and lentils in the store. And we know we all live in a busy world, and sometimes there isn't necessarily enough time to make all real food, and you have to buy food in a processed form. And when you do that, the really key thing you want to do is to choose the food with the least amount of processing possible. It'll have the fewest ingredients, and it'll be in as close as possible to its natural state that it grew in. And a really good example here is of cauliflower. And if we look, here's cauliflower, and just as it came from the field, unprocessed, one ingredient cauliflower. This is cauliflower that has been chopped up and frozen. It's minimally processed, and it only has one ingredient, cauliflower, but it's much more convenient and ready to use. This is a highly processed form of cauliflower. It's a food substance made with cauliflower, but it has over 30 ingredients that includes sugars, it includes some unhealthy fats, and it includes some man-made chemicals. And in this case, one example is polysorbate 80, which is an emulsifier, and it's typically added in soaps and things like that. It is allowed in food in Canada, but it could possibly affect your microbiome, the trillions of organisms that live in your gut, and that could have knock-on effects to your health, your metabolism, your mental well-being. So you really want to try and avoid those chemicals that you don't know what they are. And so read the ingredients and choose the ones with the least number of ingredients and where you know what the ingredients are. And you would possibly have them in your own kitchen. I don't think anybody has polysorbate 80 in their kitchen. At least I hope not. And another really good example is when we look at refined grains and foods made from refined grains or flours. So this includes things like breakfast cereals and bread and pasta and pizza crust and buns and wraps. And all of these things are made from highly processed, highly refined grains, and they're made into flour. They're no longer really in a form that you can identify as how they grew in the field. And as a result, these things behave very differently in your digestive system. So you could, for example, if you want oats for breakfast, you could choose Cheerios, but that's an ultra-processed food. The actual structure of the molecules in that food substance are nothing similar to how it was in its natural state. It has other ingredients in it. And, after you eat it, you usually find you'll get hungry pretty quick afterwards because it's going to probably raise your blood sugar. And then when your blood sugar comes back down, your body's going to tell you need more food and you're hungry. A better choice, perhaps, would be to choose something like this, in this case, steel-cut oats. This is what people mean by a whole grain, not just things that once upon a time were whole grain and then entered a factory and became something very different. These are, the only ingredient in this is oats, and they've just been cut up to make it easier to cook. And so when you look at them, they look pretty much like they would be harvested from the field and chopped up. And that is a whole grain food that is going to stay with you longer. It's going to behave very differently in your digestive system. And this will even act to some degree like the GLP-1 agonist drugs, Wegovy and Ozempic, where it will reduce your hunger. It will slow down your digestion because it takes longer to digest this stuff. It can be very convenient, and the way you make something like this very convenient, if you want to have it for breakfast in the morning, put it in a pot, get the pot boiling, put the lid on, turn the heat off, go to bed, and when you wake up the next morning, your steel-cut oats are all ready to eat, and they just need some fat and some protein added. So maybe add some yogurt and maybe some brightly colored berries like we talked about in episode 1, and you've got a much healthier choice for breakfast. And if you choose to eat more real foods, you're going to have a better chance of staying healthy longer and living healthy life longer. And I hope that's useful information. We're going to do one more in this series to complete the framework for healthy eating, and I hope to see you then. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.